join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we start, Rosie's not going to make it tonight because of the weather. She's concerned about the ice. I also have a letter from Glenn. He is resigning. So I'm just going to read this real quickly into the record. Eric, please accept this letter as resignation from the planning board. I was hoping that I would be able to balance both work, home, and this, but it has become apparent that my travel schedule is not going to abate and that I will not be able to participate at the level that is required to do the job properly. I have enjoyed working with the group. Sincerely, Glenn Wilkinson. It's unfortunate. He's going to be missed. So, Michael, you're going to sit in tonight for Roseanne, and we will go on to public comments. Any public comments? Hearing none, we will close public comments. We'll go on to item 3, which is review and approval of the minutes of November 14th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So one minor edit on page 16, line 23. Delete the word road. It's just abutting Maple Crest.
Oh. I think it's Drive, isn't it? Maple Crest
Well, no,
Drive?
but it's abutting Maple Crest, which is kind of the neighborhood,
Yeah,
not the
right.
road.
Right.
That was what I was referring to.
Anybody have any other comments, revisions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it unanimously, and
Abstain, too.
Amy and Peter are both going to abstain?
I
As you-
wasn't at the meeting.
Right, you weren't
I
here.
did read the notes.
Yes. Okay. All right, on to regular business. First is Jonathan Smith and Caitlin Smith. Continuation of a request for a waiver of impact fees for an accessory apartment at 14 Woods Drive, tax map U1, lot 1-50 in the R2 zone. So at our last meeting, Roseanne Quox had indicated that she didn't think that we had the ability to waive impact fees. So we had agreed that we would reach out to our lawyers, Donahue, Tucker, and Chindella, and I believe everybody should have a copy of the letter that John Radigan provided for us. So Diane, do you want to walk through quickly what the letter kind of says? We have the letter says we have the right to waive them.
The planning board has the right to waive the impact fees, and he didn't feel that there was any limitation due to the new RSA that was passed last, or 2 years ago, I guess, concerning ADUs, accessory dwelling units. So basically, the state statute does allow planning boards to waive impact fees, provided it's contained within the zoning ordinance, which it is. We have a section in the zoning ordinance which actually lays out different options for waiving certain conditions under which impact fees can be waived. And so it was his opinion that provided the planning board reviews the criteria and feels that the application meets the criteria, then it's well within your authority to waive the impact fee as you see fit. And there was also a question that came up about water and sewer connection fees, which, as you know, are charged by the Water and Wastewater Department, and that is a separate statute that enables that department to be able to impose fees, and the planning board doesn't have authority in that venue. So the applicant would have to try to get a waiver, although they've been pretty strict about not waiving them due to the expensive wastewater treatment plant and well development that's going on in town. So,
And I don't think we've ever waived the connection fee.
Well, I don't think we've ever taken on the thought that we had the ability to waive those.
Right.
I think it
But I
was,
think
we
a
were really
question
talking
came up.
about waiving water and sewer impact fees.
Right.
That's correct.
Not connection fees.
I agree.
That's correct.
I agree completely. I agree completely.
So, having said that, I think we have information that we can proceed with the deliberations and view the request under, I think it's Part D of the ordinance, and see if, Paragraph 4, F4 of the ordinance, to see if it applies, and if it's appropriate in this instance.
Okay, thank you. Val, you had something?
So I think, given this, the attorney's opinion on this, and I appreciate us, having it. As I understand it, it's unfortunate, but as I understand it, unless the particular facility has some type of restriction put on it relative to the fee that is in question, we do not have the right to waive it. Is
That's
that-
one of the things that John Radigan had pointed out in his letter.
So to put it in more simplistic terms, there would actually have to be a deed restriction, let's say on the apartment, that it's limited to some age restriction,
Or single occupancy.
or a single individual.
Single individual.
Wow, I don't think we have a right to discriminate on familial status.
The applicant can agree to that. We can't force the applicant to do
Okay.
that. The applicant could agree to that.
Yeah, I actually feel uncomfortable asking for any of that, but if
No,
somebody wants to
true.
offer that, then.
In order to justify us granting a
Right.
waiver. Okay.
That's my opinion on it. So. What's everybody else think on the,
The school impact fee was one under question, right? Was that?
I think that's why we are continuing.
Right.
right. Right. In that particular case,
Because I wasn't
it
at the
was
last
school,
meeting,
right.
but I read the notes, so
Yeah.
that was my understanding, it was to waive the school impact fee.
I
Right.
think we were also discussing the water and sewer? Yes.
Yes.
I think the comment was made
But-
that in the
'cause in the
previous
previous
application,
times-
they had paid the water and sewer connection fee.
So
there
we were
was-
taking the position that that was offsetting the impact.
Right, and that
And
was
we
a
don't have the right to
contribution to
do
water
that.
and sewer.
Right.
We don't have the right to do that. If it's on a well or a septic, we could waive it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like we should come up with make it pretty clear for people what
For applicants.
what the waiver requirements are, so the applicants will know going forward exactly what they need to provide us in order for us to
To grant a
consider
waiver.
it, to grant the waiver, right? Because up until now, it would have been,
Right.
what your gut feeling told you. And we,
Checklist or something.
yeah,
They would-
we no longer can do that,
Right.
so. So having said that, the first one on the agenda is Mr. Smith. Hi, welcome on this dreary night. So I think you kind of heard that discussion that the town's lawyers have advised us that we have the ability to grant waivers, but that certain criteria, we need to have justification with certain criteria. So I guess I would suggest at this point that maybe you get with,
Well, I guess I would like to hear,
Like to
that a
hear.
suggestion was
Yeah.
made that perhaps a deed restriction could be put on the property. It would have to be something that was voluntarily put on by the homeowner. And I guess, that's an option that could be considered. And I guess I'd like to know if, what your reaction to that might be.
I have no problem with that at all, because single occupancy is all that we want here. It's what fits the property. So I wouldn't have a problem with deed restriction or covenant, or however, least expensive way to put it in place.
so I think the onus would be on you at this point then to come to the town with a deed restriction or a covenant or whatever that is acceptable right, to Diane?
Yeah, and I would
we
say,
can go move forward.
you know, we may want to, depending upon the nature of it, have it reviewed by our legal counsel, just to make sure we're on solid ground and there's not going to be any problems going forward. And, you know, just to review the language. We've done that in the past.
To make sure it's not contrary to any fair housing
That's correct.
statutes within New Hampshire or federal.
Right.
That's right. Because it has to be something that's legally appropriate, I think, the language and the statute reads.
Right. So your timing was not exactly the best. You're going to be the first one that goes through this new process, so we can figure out exactly how we can manage this, these requests going forward in accordance with the advice from our attorney.
Yeah. I've always done things the hard way anyway.
So, I guess with that, I'd entertain and with your support, entertain a motion to continue. Yeah? Or,
It's up to the
well,
board.
what's the
or
pleasure of the
whether,
board? I mean, I don't
you
know how
it
we...
could be worked into a condition of approval. That's up to the board to decide.
I think there's too many unknowns relative to whether or not the applicant can deed restrict a single occupancy.
Okay. All right, well, I think
We'd be
maybe
granting something that may
subject to-
not be legal, and then how is it enforced?
Well, yeah, and
We-
with the first
Yeah.
time going through this part of, sorry, Diane, this part of the process, then maybe if we get the deed or restriction and then have legal look at it, make sure it's okay. And then next time going forward, we kind of know, you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you want to continue it, we would need to have a draft of the document, so it would be incumbent upon the applicant to do the legwork to get something to us that we can then have reviewed by our legal counsel.
Okay, so sooner the better.
Right.
Hmm.
And as soon as we receive that, we can put it back on the agenda for further discussion and approval by the board.
So I would make a motion, we just continue so that we don't have to renotice.
Yep.
So I make a motion, we'll continue the request for a waiver of impact fees for an accessory apartment at 14 Woods Drive, tax map U1, lot 1-50 in the R2 zone to January 9th, is that correct?
January 23rd, due to the
23rd.
holiday, it's delayed a week in January.
Well, that would be
Actually, it's
2 weeks?
2 weeks, because of the,
So January
Oh, yeah, the
23rd.
that's when the meeting's scheduled. And Sue Jordan sent out a revised schedule to everyone. I think that it indicated that. Okay, I'll second.
Oh, that right there.
Okay, the motion is made by Val and seconded by Janice. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Diane.
Alrighty, next is Alex Capron and Kathleen West. Request for a waiver of school impact fees for an accessory apartment at 7 Moody Point Drive, tax map R2, lot 39, in the R1 zone. Hi.
So I think maybe
Please.
are we in the same boat?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so it-
So it sounds like we need to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like we would need to do a date. We just have to have one tenant, it's also a one-bedroom apartment, small garage, so
Hmm.
we're not expecting children to be there. We wouldn't have the kids, just but, I mean, this isn't like baby, but, you know.
Right.
Who knows, right, I guess actually that is a question, if they were like somebody that was pregnant, and so it's probably the legality, but probably doesn't need to be like evaluated.
Yeah, there's some things we have to figure out. This is the
Right,
first
right.
time, obviously, so.
There's other issues surrounding this because you're on a septic system,
Yeah.
so
We
you're,
just had- we
you
just-
can limit occupancy because,
Oh, I see.
I mean, get a legal opinion on that, but from the real estate world.
Yeah,
well,
you could,
Mike
well,
Hoffman will tell you, I mean,
it is limited by the size of the septic field,
right.
the number of bedrooms or apartments,
Yeah.
so, yes, so that's, so, we don't have to beat a dead
We'll
horse.
just continue
We'll
this.
continue this one,
Yeah.
and in the meantime, you need to develop a document,
Okay.
some sort of deed restriction or
And do we
something.
need to
that-
specify, we just actually had a new septic system put in that's for more bedrooms than we have. So do we need to like demonstrate that or attach that or? how-
I don't think you need to, but I would suggest you check with Mike Hoffman,
Okay.
and make sure that he agrees with that, with you, so you don't go through this process only to find out that you can't do it anyways.
Again, the
No.
question is whether you can legally limit the number of occupants within a building.
Right.
The state law says you can't limit it to a studio, one bedroom.
No,
or two
not for,
bedroom.
no, this is,
But this is the type, we're talking about the type of unit
Yeah.
that it is.
Right.
no, I'm talking about the limitation, not on what
Not
it
the type
is.
of
The
unit.
limitation on if you have a legal right to limit occupants within the
But
structure.
they're offering to do it by agreeing to putting a deed restriction on their property. We're not requiring that.
Right.
Right.
So we should be in touch with my confidant, is that bottom line?
Well, make sure the septic system is okay,
Yeah.
but then you need to have whoever,
And,
you or an attorney draw up a,
and I would like to have an opinion from the legal counsel before the next meeting. So if you could get the documents into us, say, 10 days in advance of that meeting, so that's, so that they'll give them enough time to review it and get back to us. Okay?
All right, thank you.
All righty, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Motion to
motion?
continue the application for Alex Capron and Kathleen West for a request to waive school impact fees for an accessory apartment at 7 Moody Point Drive, tax map R2, lot 39, the R1 zone, to January 23rd.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, motion made by Val, seconded by Peter. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And for the record, Janice recused herself from that. Next on the agenda is NIP 6 LLC in Maplewood and Vaughan Holding Company, continuation of a public hearing for an application for lot line adjustment at 2 Forbes Road, 175 and 177 Exeter Road, tax map R3, lots 6, 7, and 9-6 in the B2 zone. The proposal is to adjust the lot lines in order to modify two building lots. The lots are larger and have more frontage than required and will be conforming industrial lots. I have a letter.
Right here.
Oh, there we go. From Rob Graham. Good morning, Diane. Please extend our timeline until the January 23rd, 2018 Planning Board meeting. Thank you for the heads up. So is there a motion to continue?
Motion to continue. NIP Lot 6 LLC in Maplewood Vaughan Holding Company at 2 Forbes Road, 175 and 177 Exeter Road, tax map R3, lots 6, 7, 8, 9 through 6, B2 zone.
To a time, January 23rd meeting?
To January 23rd meeting.
Second? Second, and any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next one is Maplewood and Vaughan Holding Company LLC, continuation of a public hearing for an application for site plan review at 177 Exeter Road, tax map R3, lot 7 in the B2 zone. The proposal is for a 24,000 square foot standalone industrial building with municipal water and sewer. The application previously approved will not be constructed. The full application may be viewed at the planning office at the Town Hall, 186 Main Street, Newmarket, New Hampshire, during business hours. And we have that same letter. So is there a motion to continue?
Motion to continue, as the chair read, to the January 23rd meeting.
Second?
Second.
Seconded by Janice. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Troy Zerveskis. Hope I didn't put your name too badly.
Great pronunciation.
Public hearing for an application for site plan review at 187 Main Street, tax map U2, lot 142 in the M2 zone. The proposal is for a change of use from single occupant residential to mixed-use commercial residential. So we have an application that we first need to, well, should we take the waiver request first?
Would have to, right? 'Cause
Yeah, we-
otherwise
yeah, we have to.
The application's not complete.
Yeah, exactly.
The application needs
Right.
some work.
So we have two items in front of us. We have a waiver request, and we have site plan review, the checklist of the application. So I guess first, we will take the waiver request, which is a waiver request from section 1.05 which is for the application to be considered as a minor review rather than a major review. What's, well, hold on 1 minute. What's
I just
everybody
wanted to
think?
say that the threshold for a major is any conversion of use from one use to another is considered a major site plan review under the terms of the ordinance.
So the current use is a single family?
Correct.
Or
Yes.
apartment, or?
So right now, it's being rented, but it's a single-family use right now. Yeah.
So the whole, all of 187 Main is a single family?
So it's only ever been, so I lived there for 15 years, right across the street, and then put tons of money into it, and then when we decided to move, we tried to sell it residentially, and all the feedback was just, this really isn't a great residential spot, it's on the railroad tracks, and I had my office there for a number of years where it was, and I had approval from, not the planning board, I don't think I needed planning board approval, I just needed
You just had a home-based business?
home-based business,
Okay.
town approval, but it had a sign and so forth, and so, long story short, talking to lots of people, it just seems like that's a much better use for that location than than the single-family residential. But right now, yes, correct,
So,
it's single-family residential.
just so I understand it, so it's current single-family residential, and the proposal is to convert it to mixed use?
Correct, yep, and that mixed use is a commercial unit downstairs and a rental unit upstairs.
And it's about 1,000 square feet, the commercial use space downstairs.
And we don't have a threshold for, it's
We
just
don't,
any
because
change
it's
of
a
use?
conversion, it's a conversion of use from non-residential to commercial. So, under the
Or
terms of
mixed.
our ordinance, it's considered major site plan review.
And reading through the ordinances, it seems like it's much more in spirit of a minor than a major. The only one that it seems like is a little bit of a, could be a little dicey is the, establishment of non-residential use where no non-residential use currently exists. I guess my only thought there is I've had approval in the past for non-residential use, and it was used for a number of years as such.
As your home occupant.
As a
As
home
home
business, but it was
business.
really-
Yes,
it
home
had a-
business,
But it
yes.
certainly had a sign, and I had an employee or two there, and it was very much a real commercial use. I'm I own a financial planning firm, and it was used as that purpose at the time. And
How much
Yeah.
square footage?
About 1,000.
So the home-based business was all on the main level?
It was about 2/3 of the main level.
Okay.
And as our family grew, my office got smaller.
And that's a permitted use in the zone, home-based business?
Home-based business is allowed in any, actually, it's allowed in residential districts, and an M2 zone is considered residential. And because of the nature of it, it was not approved as a commercial use, it was approved
It's
as
a
a
home-based business.
home-based,
So it could- Up to
which,
4 employees and all.
right, which is a residential use of the property, it's not a commercial use.
But it is zoned M2, and talking to Mike at length, I mean, his feeling was that's really the purpose of that zone is for that type of use and to have, and if you look at all the different corners, every corner except for the town hall is a multifamily. So I know that's not necessarily mixed use, but it's certainly not single-use residential.
Well, the difference there, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the home-based business is that you have an own occupancy within the building that is running their business out of the building.
That is
As
correct.
opposed to mixed use, you could have a rental property, which would be on one floor, and then the other floor would be a commercial use.
That is correct.
It's a different concept.
Right.
As I look at the property, I mean,
Right.
I suppose it could be a multi-use residential and do 2 apartments, if that's, again, I haven't even gone down that path. No, that can't be.
It's not allowed
I
in
don't
the
think you
zone.
have enough, well, I don't know, I'd have to look at your lot, I'd have to see if you have enough density to
Density.
allow it.
Okay. Well, that's the other part, you're living in an old town and a .19 acre lot, there's not, there's certainly no setbacks. My house is on the driveway of the neighbor and so forth, and it's been there since 1830. So it's hard when you're going through these regulations because nothing conforms.
Right.
And
Yeah, the
and
old.
so I guess my feeling looking at this is just the spirit of what it is that I'm trying to do. It just feels like it's much more in the spirit of a minor rather than a major, which would be the same as somebody putting in a housing development, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, that would be. Val, what are your thoughts?
What's,
On the
so
ma-
is the only thing that's triggering the major versus minor, the fact that it's a change of use?
The fact that it's residential and it's going to non-residential. yes.
Okay.
And it's right in the ordinance, Valerie, if you'd
Oh, in
like
the
me to
ordinance,
get a
sorry.
copy
No, I just trying
of
to
it, I'd
get on
be happy
board
to
here.
show it to you.
Because that is the only, because I understand that that's the only thing.
What's,
Remind me,
Anybody have any questions?
what's the financial differential between a minor and major review?
There's-
Huge.
You mean the cost?
Yeah.
A minor review, I don't have my ordinance in front of me, but it's, commercial is based on square footage, and he actually paid $235 for his minor site review application. I don't have my, I don't
I
think.
think the way I was looking at it is, I don't believe there was a significant financial difference, but I believe there is a significant
process?
protocol processing difference, which could translate into significant fees with surveyors and so forth that's required to do a major
Right.
review.
But you still have to have a scale plan that's properly laid out.
Understood. Yes. I now understand that very well, and my Excel document that I spent a ton of time on clearly wasn't adequate. I thought I was doing a great job. So no, I understand that loud and clear. I guess my feeling is just if that major review is going to cause me to go through, several thousands of dollars worth of again, protocols, it just seems a little out of the spirit for what
Yeah.
I'm trying to do.
Well, you would also,
Go ahead.
you would also have the ability to request waivers for various items that are required under the major review that the planning board has purview over. So I guess my question would be, are there any ordinance-specific items that are required under major versus regulations?
You have to have a survey boundary, you have to have topo, storm drainage, and I wanted to just point out, I look at these applications in terms of previous ones we've reviewed that are similar, and as you know, 2 or 3 buildings down is the Perkins Agency building, and it's a very similar situation. The Perkins Agency is about 1,200 square feet, and they did hire an engineer who did a very detailed plan, and they also did some stormwater engineering because there were concerns about drainage, and I just wanted to show you so that you get a sense of the differences between what we have here tonight and what was approved for the Perkins property, which are very clearly laid out
Yeah, that has-
engineered drawings.
No, that's what I would be expecting, so that's more where my
Okay,
questions are
I just want to
coming
make
from.
sure that it's clear what we're expecting and that we're not going to make any waivers just because it was a home business at one point.
So the only thing we have tonight, this is what we, in looking at this package, that this is the only plan you have.
That's right.
Okay,
And
yeah,
that-
I would agree with you on that. And especially
But I
because
wanted
the
to use
drainage
that
is
as
going to
a-
be the big issue.
Drainage is an issue. It's
And
right at the
traffic.
base of the railroad bridge. Site distance is an issue.
Is that still under New
It
Hampshire
comes
DOT
under
control?
New Hampshire DOT, and as a matter of fact, I spoke with the district
Yeah, I know how
engineer's
far.
office
Well, no, sorry,
today.
152.
And they will require, an evaluation. And when they looked at this other property that's 2 doors down, they did have several concerns because of the traffic impacts, and they did have to, engineer it so that it properly met the town's requirements. And I can share that with you if you'd like to look at it.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it just seems like the redesign for that property was pretty significant, and it seems like the spirit of that business is there is a fair amount of traffic in and out, and I wouldn't anticipate for this property there would be that. Again, I can't say that today because I don't have a tenant, but to me, it's going to be an architect, it's going to be a CPA, it's going to be a small attorney office. But
That's what your desire is, just, there was a tenant for Perkins, so it was, they could just, they could provide information on their existing use for the other building they were already in. But once a plan is approved, it's not for a particular tenant, it's for the use. So,
Any permitted use in that zone could then
Right.
go in there.
You could have an architect go in and then, 2 years later, have some development firm go in with many more employees and
Yeah.
traffic.
I would, personally, I'd prefer to see a more thorough application. However, I also have no issue with granting appropriate waivers, ones that we think are appropriate to help speed the thing along. It is an existing site, like you said, that's got, you're not proposing any changes to the site at this point, right?
No, and again,
Yeah,
that's where I would
so-
see it a little bit different to up the street as well.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
able to look and be exactly as it is right now.
yeah. Have you had any conversations with DOT?
I have, I've talked to Kerry over at DOT.
Okay.
He's going to be looking into it.
Okay,
Process, the application is in process.
okay. Oh, so you've already submitted an application for a
So we've
driveway?
gone back and forth, and he's getting the application to me, and it will be submitted. So it will be submitted, but it's not been submitted.
Okay.
He was out of the office when I called him last time, so we played phone tag.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not one to, I guess, support process just for the sake of process.
Right.
I mean, this is unique, so that's why, I would prefer to see an application, and then we can discuss what waivers we think are appropriate to grant, and maybe
I would agree.
maybe we set up and do a site walk, so everybody's familiar with what's out there, so, we can, I think, make intelligent or educated decisions. Does that seem like an appropriate?
Is this the White House right across the street?
Yeah.
It's-
Yes.
It used to be Bukowski's house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The one that probably should have been torn down and our
The
little.
state said they had the opportunity to buy it, and or they
Oh, when
owned
they
it at
did
one
the-
point.
I think the state owned it for like
Just
2.5
store that.
years or something like that. It was vacant, yeah.
Yeah.
We were the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kids that said, hey, in the height of the real estate market, nobody's made an offer on this house for 18 months, we'll take it. And put way too much money into it, and here we go.
You've done a nice job, though.
Well, thank you.
I watched it progress.
No, but I would think drainage and traffic
Right.
and
Parking.
parking
Yeah.
would be the main issues. Especially if it is commercial, then you've got the handicap, parking space and all
Right.
those regulations.
There's also a crosswalk that's adjacent to the driveway. There's a grade change, and sight distance is a problem at that location because of the steep grade of the railroad bridge.
Yeah, and that's what DOT would
Would look
weigh
at,
in on,
right.
right? I mean, I know on Perkins, they weighed in on that, and they're weighing in on the school, so they'll certainly have their say.
Is there any other feedback in terms of, a successful application so that this doesn't go on longer than it needs to be? I want to make sure that I'm doing what I can do to give you the information that you need.
And I think that's fair. I mean, honestly, I think we should
I sat
offer some
down,
advice.
and I will review it with you again. I sat down with you once, and I reviewed the regulations with you. I offered to give you the Perkins application to show you what a minor site plan application is supposed to look like. It would be very helpful for you to come into the office and review that document and make sure that what you come up with for a site plan is detailed enough so that we can do an evaluation of parking, drainage, circulation, and all the things that we did for the Perkins property.
So is
We
there-
don't treat anybody any differently.
No, I'm not asking for that, but is there a protocol for application? I guess that's where my confusion comes in, is that I filled the application out and did what it said on the application, yet then when I submitted it, there was this myriad of other things that weren't done, that weren't anywhere near the application. So I guess it's a disconnect for me to understand how I can meet your needs, because it doesn't say on the application.
I sat down and I reviewed with you the minor site review regulations. I went through every single one of them with you, and I showed you where they were.
I'm not disputing
And
that.
it's incumbent upon you, as the applicant, to take the town's ordinances, review them, and put the package together so it meets the town's requirements.
So you'd like an outline? I guess that's what I'm asking
I
for, a
would-
process.
The
Diane-
process is you, no, this is
Hold on,
my
hold on,
job,
Just
hold on,
one
okay?
minute,
hold on,
please.
hold on one sec,
You're
hold on.
referring to minor, but isn't this a major?
No, I'm talking about minor. Perkins was a minor subdivision. Okay, we need to see the drainage.
Then
we need to
I'm
s-
confused about the waiver.
Because he's asking for a waiver from full, they received a
Okay.
waiver,
Okay.
okay? He's asking for a waiver from full site plan review requirements.
He's asking for a waiver for
But
major.
initially,
Right,
he
to minor.
submitted this sketch thinking he could come in here and just have the planning board approve
No, I
that,
understand.
endorse it, and he'd go out the door.
If you could, my question is,
Yes, you
is
did.
this a minor review
He will,
application?
I am recommending that his application for a waiver be approved so that he can submit a fully compliant minor site plan application meeting all the town's requirements. And if there are any requirements he can't comply with, that he needs to submit appropriate waivers to the planning board that can be reviewed. But what we have now.
Under a minor.
If he
Under
doesn't,
a
it
minor.
jumps to a
Okay.
major.
And what we have now doesn't meet the requirements for a minor site plan review.
Okay, so the application's incomplete, even if we grant the waiver.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I'm confused about.
And that's why I have my staff recommendation here that clearly spells out the reasons why I'm recommending what I'm recommending.
But, one step further to answer your
Okay, to
question.
answer his question.
This is what we give him, and this is what you need to
He
have.
needs to sit down and look at the
So I'm gonna
town's
repeat.
regulations
Yeah.
and review them and understand them and hire, if necessary, professional people to help him lay it out so that we can do the evaluation.
So again, and I'm not opposed to that, Diane, again, that.
You
again,
can't
that's-
just do it on the back of a napkin and expect you're going to get approval.
Again,
But no-
not my full-time job,
but-
not anything that I'm
but-
really familiar with.
So, hold on one second, everybody. So, we have your checklist.
You have the checklist, you have the town's
have the
requirements. It's in the requirements that I sent you by email last Wednesday, and I have an email saying I
So
sent it to you.
there's one that's completed here, that is reviewed by Diane and her staff, that you can take, and this will tell you what is missing from the application.
If you'd like me to
So-
sit down with you and go over it before the meeting to make sure it's complete, I'm
Yes.
happy to do that.
Thank you.
I think the bottom line is, he clearly has things that trigger the major review process.
So he's requesting the waiver.
This hasn't
Right.
been done, and if you really want to request a waiver, you're going to at least have that completed, and then you can request the waiver. And when we have that, we can say that is or is not a minor change, period.
I think, again, just so I'm not so confused,
No,
what I'm hearing Diane say is she's in support of granting the waiver request,
but I'm not,
but he does not have a complete application.
so we can't act on it this evening.
We can't act on the
We can't
application.
act on an application, we can
Yes.
act on the waiver.
We need to
request.
act on the waiver.
Completely fine with
Okay.
that.
We need to
I
act on the
don't-
waiver.
Alright.
At the
So-
next meeting, you'll review the application and determine, is it complete and does it meet the
Yep.
town's requirements?
know.
And at that point, we can resume the review of it
Okay.
and have a site walk and go out and visit the
All right.
site and see how it,
Right.
That-
if
that
it's an
just
appropriate site
wasn't
for the
clear.
use.
Yes.
Which,
In the
at the
discussion.
time, I'm assuming could also trigger that it's not a minor change, it's major.
No, I think
No,
once we make
grant
Or is
the
this,
that then
waiver,
too
it's
late?
going minor.
And that determination is an administrative determination, what category it falls into. And it's told him that he comes under a major site plan.
Right.
And he can
Grant a
come to the
waiver.
planning board and request a waiver. And I also gave him the criteria that he needs to bring out
So-
when he requests his waiver, and he didn't address that
and I'm
either.
okay with granting the waiver,
Yeah,
personally,
well, be-
and then we get the minor application submitted, get it complete, and then we can take it from there.
Well, because the administrator, meaning Diane, believes that this could go forward as a minor.
Yes, Diane's right.
Right,
I mean,
there's no red flag to say, no, don't grant the waiver.
No, we're
And-
not saying that.
Right, no, right, and the fact that our regulations, almost anything you do requires a major, as far as if you go from residential to commercial, right? So, I think it's completely appropriate in this case to
Do a minor.
grant a waiver to let a minor application go through, and then we'll get the application in, and we'll deal with it as it comes in. And we'll do a site walk and whatever else we think we need to do.
Well,
Okay.
it would also be nice to know exactly what the business is that's going in there. And I think that you have the property on the market, do you not? So you're interested in,
I do not have it on the market. I have a commercial realtor listing it for commercial space.
So
That's
that's
what
on
the
the
signs
market.
are all about, but it's not
Okay.
listed for sale.
Right.
You know, It was listed for sale residentially, and then we just didn't like the feedback we were getting or the offers, and that's why we're
And-
seeking this change.
And my opinion on that is that as we go through the process, we have to assume that any permitted use could
Right.
potentially go in there. So we have to be comfortable that.
biggest impact.
That the impact, we have to be comfortable that the site will handle what could be
What's allowed.
the most impacted business there. Right, I mean, we have to assume anything could go in there. We could permit it, and then we can't restrict, if it's a permitted use, it could go there, so we have to
Can't go into
assume.
professional space and then have to be looked at again if it was something more comprehensive than that.
Boy,
He would have to
No,
come
'cause
back to the planning board for another application.
Is that-
if it was changed.
If it was changed.
To
If
your
the
point,
use
then, we
was
were talking
changed.
about
Yes.
the difference between a doctor's office and a small professional office. How are we looking at that? What distinction were
Well-
were you thinking of when you're saying that?
They may be the same impact.
No, the regulations are different depending upon, because it's based on parking.
Right.
A doctor's office has much greater parking needs than, say, with all due respect, if there's any accountancy as an accountant's office.
So that's my
So-
point, that how do we?
Well, the way it generally is handled in the industry is that as you go through this process, whoever you end up hiring to do the work for you will make recommendations, and typically what you do is you permit the use that your site will handle. If you get a site that needs 10 parking spaces, and you get that permitted, and you want to change it to a site that only needs 6 parking spaces, you generally don't need to go back and get no approval for that. If you get a site approved that needs 10 parking spaces, then you have a use that needs 15, you need to come back and get it
But if
reapproved.
there's different regulations for each,
And-
aren't you only permitting to the extent of the regulations for what you have? Meaning, I'm not looking to get approval at this regulation, I'm looking to get approval at this level of regulation.
And I guess you could come in and restrict what the permitted use is as part of the process. You could say, I'm going to only,
Based upon
it's
the
going to be
parking.
permitted as
Or whatever.
office space, 1,000 square feet of office
It's-
space.
So and again, I'm ignorant to this, but so your discretion supersedes the M2. So when you say the spirit of what M2 zoning is supposed to be about in the permitted uses, those are just sort of informal permitted uses, and it's
No.
really the board's decision?
No, you have
No.
list, in the table of permitted uses is a list of what's allowed. Okay.
But they
so
have to meet site plan
The problem is with
regulation.
the M2 zone, because the lots are small and they're, the developed areas of town, that it's not like dealing with a piece of land that's never been built upon before. You really kind of you're stuck with what you have, basically.
Right.
So the town's regulations, if you had read them, you would have
I did
found.
read that, Diane. This is just not
If
something.
you would have found that in the M2 district, there is some leeway on traffic requirements and parking requirements, but the onus is up to you as the developer or the applicant to be able to provide justification for those. And if, in doing so, one of your ideas is to restrict the use to professional offices, real estate, you can set the parameters, and the town will review it and approve it accordingly. But if somebody comes in and wants to put a veterinarian office in there, and they have a lot of customers coming and going, and there's only 5 parking spaces to accommodate them, and they want an occupancy permit, then the town has full authority to say, no, it doesn't meet the requirements for that use, given the intensity of it. And
Right.
and it's done on a case-by-case basis, and that's where the zoning administrator and the building official work together to determine how this is going to play out. And, the leverage that we have as a town is that we won't issue an occupancy permit, and we won't issue a building permit unless it goes through that process.
Okay. So, last question, again, I'm not sure if I'm going to hire somebody or not. I think I really have to look at my ROI on all of this and what the cost will go into doing this.
Sure.
Again, I just want to understand procedurally and from a protocol standpoint. So I've got this page, and I have gone through the regulations, and I have no problem going through and speaking to each one of them. Based on the application, I didn't realize that's what the protocol called for. So am I just outlining? Am I just literally outlining through each of the regulations, and that's how I'm giving you that information?
You will need to develop a site plan
Okay.
that meets the town's requirements.
Exactly.
It lays out all the parking spaces, provides the dimensions, and is drawn to scale. And when we get the application in, we will go through the checklist to make
Okay.
sure it's complete. That's the first step. Once it's complete, it comes to the planning board. The planning board will make a decision that it's complete and it's adequate for review. And then technically, we go through a review process where we have a site walk of the property. We if, as appropriate.
Yeah.
Sometimes we set up a technical review committee to work through some of the issues if it's a complicated application. So the first step, though, is to have a complete application that meets the town's requirements. And I'm more than happy to sit down with you and go over what you have before the meeting so that you don't run into a situation 2 days before the planning board meeting where we don't have all the information we need to review and adequately review your application.
Okay?
Yeah, just to expound on that a little bit, there's a requirement for boundary plan, and there's a line here that says LLS, stamp and signature. That means a licensed land surveyor. So you have to provide a plan from a licensed land surveyor, because we want to make sure that everything that you're proposing is on your property, or any applicant is on their property. So things like that. So I do think it is wise if you were to come in and get a copy of the application for the Perkins. I'm not going to tell you you need to do everything in there or not do everything in there, but it gives you a frame of reference to look at and say, this is what they provided, and you can then determine, make phone calls, talk to people, figure out whether it's worth your investment to go through that. Because it's not a cheap, no matter, under any circumstance, it's not something you're going to get done for a few $100s or even probably a few thousand. It's an expensive endeavor, but that's part of what you have to do to develop the property. So.
Okay. And then, so that was the last one, we'll go one more. So you said you don't think that it would, a second apartment would work in that?
I would have to
space?
sit down with you and look at the zoning requirements and figure out density. There's a density requirement of 6 units per acre. I don't know what you said, you had .9 acres?
0.19.
Oh, .19. I mean, that's a tiny lot. So in order to do something like that, you would likely have to go to the zoning board of adjustment and get a variance from the density requirements of the zoning ordinance to be able to do that. And if it's multifamily, then it has to come to the planning board for site plan review approval.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm just,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the ordinance.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's our regs.
But a duplex is allowed.
It's there for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. So let's, just to get back on track, there's a waiver request
Yeah.
from major to minor. Is there a motion to accept this as a minor application, a minor review? Yes?
I would make a motion to accept the waiver request for 187 Main Street relative to a proposed site plan review to change the use from single occupancy residential to mixed-use commercial residential. To
Well said.
the waiver request for
Yes.
minor review versus major.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of granting the waiver, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
So the motion passes 4-2 with Peter and Mikhail opposed. So if you do choose to submit, you can submit with the minor checklist, which you have a copy in front of you.
Super, thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Right in. Next on the agenda is new and old business. Does anybody have any new business? Anybody have any old business? Chairman's report? Winter's coming.
Yeah, it's here.
I don't know. Committee reports?
I'm not the committee, but the stormwater.
Stormwater Committee has been working very diligently. We're about 75% complete in our project, and we're hopefully reviewing the final draft this Thursday, December 14th. And we hope to have something perhaps to present to the planning board, the full planning board, in January. And hopefully we can schedule that for a work session and move it through the process. And things have been going very well, I think. We've covered a lot of territory. And Kyle Pimentel from the Planning Commission has done an excellent job. And so I guess stay tuned, and in January we'll be able to present that to you for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, do you know where the town is with this?
It's right here.
Yeah, kind of.
Isn't the town suing to prevent MS4 implementation? Isn't the town part of that? Are we in
Yeah,
part of
I
a
know
lawsuit for
Steve has
that?
been working, yeah, there is, he is working with something like that. I have, we talked about it a few months ago, but I haven't heard the most recent, or I haven't seen the most recent update. I know that Counselor Weinstein was just at a conference recently, and she did attend a session on that as well. But I'll have to get with Steve
Could
and
you
see.
find out?
Yeah.
The only reason I'm asking is
I haven't
it's
heard
kind of
anything
odd.
from the group that's appealing it.
And maybe nothing has happened, you know?
Um,
It's just kind of an
Haven't
awkward
gotten any
position to be in.
emails or anything,
Right.
so,
No.
but I'll see if there is an update.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly don't, you know, we're an elected panel, I mean, so that we don't take direction from the council, but it's,
Yeah.
the town position, it's kind of awkward. It would be awkward to be in a position where the town is suing to prevent something from being implemented, and the planning board is then implementing.
Well, yeah,
those
right, that would be a little,
regulations.
No, I think regardless of whether we have MS4 or not, I think having good stormwater management regulations on the books behooves the town to move forward, whether we're required to by EPA or not.
true.
Because we have some major flood issues here in Newmarket, and we need to have, you know, regulations, good regulations in place to provide for resiliency. And you remember the presentation Kyle made a couple of
Yeah.
months ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's all, you know, good planning and design, so whether we pursue the lawsuit or not, or whether we win it or not, I think it's still good for the town of Newmarket to proceed.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, my understanding was that the MS4 was around some specific restrictions that you would have to abide by. But then we could still, in the discussion, it was still that we could put in our own, you know, restrictions as well, or,
It can be more restrictive.
Right.
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 Yeah, I mean, I certainly would like to know where we are with that.
Yeah, I think your
Yep.
point too
No
is
problem.
that whatever burden we're putting on landowners, the town should be,
Yep,
you know, dealing with the same
And the
regulations.
town will have to.
yep. Yeah, I'll find out. Where we're at.
Thank you.
Well, isn't the town exempt from our
The town is
regulations?
exempt from our
Yeah,
regulations,
so-
right, as far as that
Yeah,
goes.
no, but, no, under MS4 program, there's
No,
what
no,
they
if
call-
they win the MS, if we're not obligated
Oh,
to
yeah.
MS4, so
Right.
then the planning board has regulations that affect landowners, but they don't impact the town.
Right.
Right.
That's the
But under the
disconnect, which is what I
MS4,
think you're saying.
we have to adopt
Right.
as restrictive housekeeping measures to prevent and alleviate pollution.
Well, I think that's why
Everyone's-
municipalities are appealing, is that their cost to the local government is pretty high for
Yep.
some of the restrictions.
That's right.
All right, any,
Just the Stratford Regional Planning Commission update, if you want.
Yeah, sure.
They're in the middle of the transportation budget review and the Governor's Advisory Council on intermodal transportation, so the next round of Gasset hearings is underway. There's really nothing there at this point that's going to affect Newmarket other than the 108 project that's underway. So that's already on the books, and
yeah, I saw the rankings
work
that
will
were
continue
sent
on
out.
that in the spring. I think they just did a temporary pavement there to get through the winter, and then the work will continue on that. Newmarket doesn't have any other major projects in the works that would be up for approval by the Governor's Council.
I saw the list that I think, Diane, you guys had sent out on the ranking projects. I mean, it had
Yeah,
nothing to do with Newmarket, but I mean, there was some
Yeah,
interesting projects in
yeah.
there.
Well,
Yeah.
right now, it's which ones are going to get funded.
Right.
Is what it comes down to. And so there's nothing impacting Newmarket that's going to be funded.
Right. Anything else in committee reports? or-
Town council met last week. We had a presentation on the McAllen Dam, where things are. So, a lot of information around different types of gates and everything that they could have options to put in, and it was just pretty much an updated information, I mean, I would say. But,
And I have copies of the summary report that was submitted to the state. And I also have copies of the PowerPoint presentation. It shows architectural renderings of the different alternatives and the costs, which range from like 1.2 million to 1.5 million. But one of the things we did find is that we have these archaic gates that are leaking, they have problems, they were put in 1925
I
or...
think that was the year he said,
Yeah, and we found that this is as part of the recent work that GZA did for us, that by replacing the gates with a hydraulic system or they call it pneumatic gate, the bladder system,
Yeah.
that it will actually be advantageous to the town because we won't have to raise the abutment walls as high on either side. And the actual cost will be less
Right.
because we won't have to repair the gate structure.
Right.
So that came as a great revelation, I
Yeah.
think, is going through the process. But it does have a expensive price tag associated.
Right.
Are those documents online?
We have not yet put them online, but I will make them available to you.
Okay.
And we will be having a public meeting in the spring, a public hearing where we're going to invite all the landowners and stakeholders and present the alternatives and the recommendation, the preferred alternative of the committee. And hopefully move forward next year with the town meeting warrant for implementation.
2019.
In 2019, that's right. And so, things are gelling, so to speak. And, for the longest time, we were sort of
spinning wheels.
spinning wheels and backpedaling. But I
Is-
think we're now moving forward, which is really encouraging.
Is the Dam Bureau now on board with what we want to do?
Absolutely.
Oh,
They
good.
attended
Yeah.
the meeting, and they've been very, very supportive and helpful, and they're going to be submitting their letter of approval to us the next couple of weeks.
Oh, nice.
So they've
Nice.
been very much partners with the town and moving forward through this. So
Oh, that's been
it's been a great process.
almost 10 years, 7 or 8 years.
I started in 2010 with it,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's been 7 years.
I think Dale said he's been working with it for 10 years.
That
So,
makes sense.
yeah, been a while.
Well,
Yeah,
it
'cause
has been.
I was on the council when we had
Yeah.
the
It
vote
was
to...
after all the Mother Day floods things,
Right.
and all of a sudden it went.
There was a gentleman who lived out,
Why'd we take the deed to this?
2007,
Back in CDC.
2008.
wanted to take it down, remember that?
Right.
So, wow,
Yeah,
interesting.
so, I think we've gained some momentum, and hopefully we can
Great.
keep going and move forward.
Yep.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Exciting.
Be nice to put
Thank
that
you for
behind
your
us.
support, Amy.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Diane, do you have anything to update us?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Janice?
No, I guess it's an adjournment. I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we off?
No, we're still on.